Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for attending. I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay respect to elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions without the need to attend meetings in person. Members of the public attending or speaking at the meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Knowing this Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the wardens. Councillors, I've got a request for leave of absence from Councillor Benjamin this meeting, Councillor Lada and Councillor Pan. All in favour? Carried, thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest. No. There is no public forum. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting 24 October. Councillor Isselman, Councillor Lard. Arising. Councillor Cross.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to just give an update on the Go meeting that we've got a meeting next week with the RNS to investigate the Capper Street Go Road intersection.
Thank you. Anything further? The motion for those entities are all in favour? Carried. Unanimous. No correspondence or petitions. Takes us to 8.9. Page 28. And to Sago Recycling. On page 29 of the hard copy, there are 7 recommendations there. Do I have a minute? Second, sorry. Councillor Lyon. Any further? Councillor Ross.
The recommendation number 2, just a slight error, state and international initiatives. It's just what's
yes, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And just further, is there any way that we can put in there somewhere about lobbying manufacturers or people that package up stuff to stop packaging excessively? I mean, on a light note, you go to the supermarket and you buy a cucumber and it's wrapped in plastic. Is there any way that we can add something about lobbying or advocating or, asking the local government New South Wales to add that to that?
Do you have something worded up or anything?
Maybe we could bring back a workshop to councillors on, because at the moment we've got our zero waste strategy.
Yes.
And we're talking with the Canberra Joint Organisation about how that fits in with their strategy, and the general managers at the moment getting together about what the next steps are. And I know in the Canberra Jail strategic intent, it's got those sorts of items listed. So maybe we could provide you with an update, and we could look at that as a resolution into the future.
Excellent, thank you.
And just to say that Kate Cross and I are going over to Bega with Martin on Monday to look at their recycling plant over there. So hopefully bring up some ideas.
With Councillor Lada's indulgence, can we, after in 5, where we said formally right to youth councils, can we add secondary schools as well? Yeah. Particularly, yes, I think. Thank you. Something further? Put the recommendation all in favour? That's unanimous. Second mayoral minute there. This is to attend a symposium in November. Senator. Councillor Rana. Any further? Councillor Cam.
I attended this, it was very well run. Duncan Taylor actually, I think, convened. There were people from all over Australia who came along and talked about their regional educational hubs. We have put together a business case for Country University Centre to be in Tumut. We have a building that can be easily modified for that. You know, I'd push very strongly for a spin-off to be here in the Tumbarumba Library as well. We have sent the business plan off to Busy to hopefully get a corporate sponsorship from them. So, and the other thing we're looking for is a board of 7 to 9 people to be part of that Country University's Centre board to make this project go forward and management in the future.
Councillor Whistleman and I toured the Cooma CUC.
Andrews.
That's right. That was very good. Thank you. The recommendation. In favour? All in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Councillors, at this stage, I would just ask you if we could bring forward reports 9.7, 10.2 and 10.8. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Rana and Councillor Wilson. All in favour? Carried. So that's 9.7 first, then 10.2, then 10.8.
So that's page 101 on the.
You want to bring in board after, you want to do that, that 97 first. Is that on one now? You just have that one. Do you want to introduce them, Michelle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're resuming the presentation of the 2018-19 financial statements and just acknowledging for the benefit of the gallery and for councillors and staff around the table that we've got a representative from the New South Wales Audit Office, Michael Kunzil, on the line. Michael, good afternoon. Oh, is it me?
Michael? Michael?
Yes, sorry, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, good afternoon, Michael.
The mute button gets you sometimes. Yeah.
I'll just hand over to Michael to walk us through the ending statements.
Yes, okay. Yes, thank you for that, and thank you everyone for the opportunity to allow me to present the report of conduct this year. As a brief way of introduction, for those who don't know, my name is Michael Cardoos. I'm a representative from the New South Wales Audit Office, and as you probably are aware, our board runs the day-to-day operation, the day-to-day running of the audit, and we provide sort of just more of an oversight over the sector. Yeah, apologies that none of us could physically attend today. It would have been good, but I think it was a bit of late notice and board had a clash, so at that point in time I wasn't able to come in. So I'll do my best anyway to go through, and if you have any questions at the end, I'm happy to take questions. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm from the Audit Office, New South Wales Audit Office, and the Auditor General does all the audits of all the 140 councils all around there, the sector. And in addition to that, we also have a performance audit branch. And coming up, we've got 3 performance audits. So they're doing more of a deep dive into specific areas that might be relevant to the council. And coming up, we have 3 coming up. There's one on procurement, one on credit cards, and another one around developer contribution. We'll also table a sector-wide report. So this report sort of gives a summary of the results and the insights from the 2019 audit, and that's expected to table in February, at the end of February 2020. But today, I guess, the main point of my presentation is to sort of go through the report on the conduct of the audit. And this report is mainly looking at provide some analysis on the key figures in the financial statements as well as the audit ratios. The good news is there was an unmodified opinion this year, which means there was a clean audit opinion, so so that was a good result. So turning to the income statement, we've got a bit of analysis. I'm not sure if you have it available, but I'll run through some of the key numbers. So looking first at the income statement.
Mark, would you be able to tell us what page you're on so we can follow where you're at?
Yes, page 2 of my report.
Page 51. 51.
The income
The
statement.
income statement. What says income statement? Okay. Right.
Are we good? Okay, yeah. So looking first at the rate and charges, as you can see, there's been a 3.7% increase, and this is mainly due to the 2.3% rate peg increase, as well as some additional rateable properties. User charges and fees decreased slightly, and this is mainly attributable to the less income from RMS. Grants and contributions, where there was a significant movement, there was a 30% increase in grants and contributions, and this was mainly coming from grants related to community care. There was a slight increase in materials and contracts, and that's just, I guess, additional raw materials consumed. And then probably the key point to mention here, the operating result for the year. So there was a improvement from last year. So last year there was a deficit of 2.7 million. This year, council achieved a surplus of 3.2 million. And one of the reasons for this is, say, the prior year there was a revaluation done where there was a decrement of $4 million, so right down to $4 million. So that impacted last year's result, but it's also the improvement is also relating to the grants contributions, which I mentioned just earlier. And then if you take out the capital grants, there was a deficit of 1.6 million, so it was an improvement from last year, but there was that deficit there. I'll now turn to the cash flows. That's page 3. So there hasn't been too much movement related to the cash flow. There was a $2 million decrease, but that's mainly due to the council reinvesting their excess funds into investments. And the overall position for cash investments is been quite steady, with an increase of 1.7 billion to 49.3 billion. If you turn your attention now to the ratio, so it's on the next page.
Which is page number?
Page number 4, so.
So in the financial statements, it's page 84.
Thank you.
Is that
Yeah.
So these ratios here, they're not all the ratios, but these ratios here are the ones that were audited by us, and they're part of the general purpose financial statement. So looking at the first one, which is the operating performance ratio. So this measures how well council contains operating expenditure within operating revenue earned. And council's ratio of 1.84% is above the OOG benchmark of 0%. So OOG's benchmark, I guess, is for council to break even, and council has achieved that. And there was an improvement from last year, so this is mainly due to the additional grants and contributions. The next ratio is the unsourced operating revenue ratio. And this ratio looks at the degree to which council relies on external funding. The council has exceeded the benchmark, so the industry benchmarks to be above 60%, and the council is slightly over that, at close to 61%. And this indicates that council is not overly reliant on external funding. And you can probably see there that there's been quite a bit of a decrease from last year. This is just explained by the additional grant contributions. To the next page now, which is page 5 of the report.
We've got that for a different page.
The next ratio is the unrestricted current ratio. So this ratio is looking at council's ability to meet their short-term obligations that they call due. And as you can see there from the graph, council's well above the industry benchmark of 1.5 times, council's at 4.43 times. So this indicates that council has sufficient liquidity to meet their current liabilities as they fall due. The next ratio here is the debt service cover ratio. So this ratio looks at, it will measure the operating cash generated to service debt obligations. And council's ratio of 7.39 is well above the benchmark of 2 times, which indicates that they are generating sufficient cash to service debt. And there's been a significant increase from last year. This is mainly due to the improved operating result, which we touched on earlier. Turning to the next page, page 6 of the report. Next ratio is the rate and annual charges outstanding percentage. And this measures the adequacy of the debt recovery efforts by council. The OLG benchmark is at 10% for regional and rural councils, and your councils at 4.3%, which indicates you are within the industry benchmark. And I guess this is a reflection of sound debt recovery procedures of the council. They've consistently been able to be well within the benchmark. The next ratio is the cash expense cover ratio. So this ratio measures the number of months council could theoretically continue paying debt if no cash came in. And council's ratio is over 13 months, which exceeds the benchmark set by OLG of 3 months. And as you can probably see there at the bottom of the page, there's a short paragraph there, which we're just looking at just to bring to your attention that council is spending on renewable assets, and the spend this year of 13.2 million on renewing assets is increased from last year, when there was 11.8 million dollars spent. And just to finish off there, so on the next page you'll probably see, just got a short point there on probably legislative compliance. For the last time I probably mentioned that there was no, from our audit work performed, there was no instances of non-compliance that would have a material impact on council's financial statements. So that concludes my presentation for the report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions, Councillor? Councillor Ham.
Thanks very much, Mark. I noticed on, I don't know what page yours is, but about the debt, that council has $9.2 million of external borrowing, and this is down from 10.4 million. So, I mean, that's positive and going in the right direction, and is that something we continue to work on every year?
Yeah, well, the amount of debt council takes on is sort of, it's the best person that could answer that is management, because they understand what the, what future plans are for investment. So whether, if management decides that they need to take on additional debt, then I guess that's a decision they can make. But what the ratios indicate, so if you compare, we look at some of the debt, we cover things like the debt service cover ratio and things like that, which sort of gives a bit of an indication of whether, your debt level's at a reasonable level, according to the OLG benchmark.
So it's looking good.
You should exceed the benchmarks there. So I guess from your point of view, yeah, it's a management decision, but obviously it looks like you're paying down the debt at the moment.
Okay, and then with the unrestricted current ratio, that is looking good this year, and it means we can pay all our obligations, and to me that looks like we're financially stable. However, there's a downward trend there. Is that to be expected, or?
It is slightly, but it's probably can't read into things too much just based on for 1 year, you know, when you look at the restricted, unrestricted account ratio, you look at things like receivables and payables, and these things can move around depending on, you know, whether payment wasn't made just towards the end of last year, or, you know, whether a receivable just recently came in. So sometimes it is just a bit of timing.
Right, yeah. So Mark, you're quite happy and you think we're viable and doing a good job and doing the right thing by our ratepayers?
Well, in terms of, the audit process seems to, you know, it went well, and, you know, the board seem like, you know, quite happy with the process. In terms of ratios, it's, you know, I guess I can just look at the ratios. In terms of the ratios, you look like you are meeting the benchmarks. Not all councils meet all the benchmarks. So if you look at it based on that, it's a good achievement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
No problem.
Any further questions? General Manager?
Councillors, I was contacted by the Office of Local Government today as I've been talking to you. They've been reviewing various material from Council. They've advised us that they've been through the financial statements and they're pleased with the results.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, councillors, we have the recommendations there on page 98. We have a mover for that. Councillor Rada, second Councillor Ham. Any further discussion? With the recommendations, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Councillors, that takes us to 10.2, which can be found in the hard copy on page 121.
Electronically on page 124.
Freehold land classification. We've got the recommendations there to have consideration from the Director.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. In response to some advice we received from the community in regards to this report, I think we should give consideration to reconsidering the report in view of providing a more detailed information on the freehold land classification in a further report to council.
So we have a second recommendation.
Well, did you have a recommendation to change the recommendation?
And through you, Mr. Mayor, does that mean, and then are we going to bring that to community consultation? So
Yeah, that's the intention.
Yeah.
So we'll bring back a more detailed report and provide the opportunity to our public exhibition receive comment, and we can have a look at the outcome.
I think that's what we really need, is something that's really clear and easy for us to understand, and make it quite simple as we can.
Is that all, Susan? That's all?
Further information on the freehold land. So it's been quite some time putting this list of land together. So I think the officer who's put aside the time to do it, it's quite a large task. Now we've got the Crown land to go moving in the future. I'll ask the General Manager to read that out.
So, councillors, the modified recommendation from the officer now reads: the council received this report reviewing the classifications of council-owned land. The council approved council officers providing a detailed report with further information on the freehold land classification and the council receive a further report on freehold land classifications.
I wonder if we should put in a fourth recommendation there to say, and then put it out to community consultation for 28 days. Is that necessary?
Can do that.
Formally?
I would have thought that would have been part of the reports.
Yeah, that would be part of the recommendation of the following report, but you could include that in 3. You see the further report on freehold land classifications.
With the intention.
Yeah, with the intention of putting them for public exhibition.
Make sense?
Yep. Nice.
Can you read that out from 3?
So the third recommendation now reads, the council receive a further report on freehold land classifications with the intention of putting the report on public exhibition.
Mover, Councillor Hand, seconder, Councillor Risserman. Any further discussion on that? Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to 10.8, assessment of Roth's Corner Medical Centre expressions of interest, page 146 online. Councillors, there's 13 recommendations there. And I just wanted to make a slight change to number 13 before we move, which was undertaking an assessment of the financial commitment needed to maintain operations of the Roth's Corner Medical Centre and allocate funds from reserves through the QBR process if necessary, or if necessary through the QBR process.
What page did you say?
Page 150. 150 in the outline.
Yeah, 150.
Sorry, we're jumping around a bit.
Just highlight that.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, could we take out if necessary?
Yep. Just move if necessary.
Okay, so with that change, do we have a mover for those 13 recommendations? Councillor Ham, Councillor Cross, you'd like first?
I'd just like to query number 12. Ensure patient records remain at Roth's Corner Medical Centre. That will be those currently and as well as previous. But I'm also wondering about My Health Record. I know a lot of people are starting to use that. Is there any implication around that in terms of keeping personal data secure?
I'm not an expert on that.
We take that one on notice.
Take that on notice, and let's Dr. Pritchard notice. No, what's it?
My health records,
My health
are they
records.
secure?
That's a Commonwealth initiative, and that really is not something that's before us. And I applaud that sort of thing, because we need national medical records so that if we go from one town to another, or hospital to another, or doctor to another, we can get those things. It's completely different.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got
Just confirming your second. Councillor Cross.
Okay. Councillor Cross, you have your moving the second. Who was the mover? Councillor Ham.
Oh, speak to it. Okay. First of all, I'd like to give my thanks to the panel that came together to discuss this, to go through the expressions of interest, and we allocated and scored, and there's our recommendations that they're taking into consideration the community in which we live and our strong need to have a document. Should we go into committee?
I move that we go into committee.
If you think it's necessary. So, Councillor Pritchard and the seconder, Councillor Ham. All in favour? Councillor Pritchard.
I don't think it's a real problem to let doctors in country areas, as you know. But I don't think local government should be involved in running it. Local government's record of running anything is not great, but in running a medical practice, I think it's impossible. medical practice is very complicated and there are many regulations that control them, and I can't see it working. I can't see that doctors will be applying to work for a local council. May I ask the question, in the expressions because was there one, how many were there from medical practices? And why weren't they made?
They were rated.
Not, whether rated or not really medical practices involved.
Chair, how much are we allowed to, like this is a confidential process, how much are we allowed to discuss?
You talk numbers, Mr. Mayor, through Mr.
Just
Mayor.
numbers, not names.
Numbers, yeah, de-identified. So the answer to that question is 2 medical practitioners expressed interest and 1 community group. So at least the site.
Medical practices
Medical practices.
and the doctors is medical practitioners.
Yes.
Why weren't they one of those selected?
Well, one of them wanted to purchase, and then that wasn't an option, he withdrew.
Unless there's some legal impediment to one of those medical practices, I can't see why we could say we're not going to have you and put up councillars only in the medical practice. Well, I don't see why we should be involved in anything like that. I know there was a medical.
It's really hard to discuss because it was part of a confidential panel, and I'd invite you to be part of that panel because I think if you'd been there, you might have understood.
Like that, I think the committee needs to know what the issue is.
I might ask the director to just give us an update on how much interest we've had from the local.
So, through Mr. Mayor, thank you. Over the last, since this report has been written, council officers have been, going out. I suppose on the assumption that this would be moved, so as not to waste any time. Everybody knows that it's quite a critical issue to try and get somebody. At this stage, we're working. Our officers are working very hard. We've seen quite interesting expressions of interest from 3 locums who could start very soon. So we're still considering those. Obviously, council needs to respond to this, and this should be resolved before we can proceed any further on that. But we have been working on trying to get some locums for the immediate term.
Councillor
Look, I'd have to agree with the sentiments of Councillor Pritchard, to be quite frank. I mean, I know there was letters to the effect in the local newspaper that nobody on this council had any concept of what was involved in running a medical centre, but I'm pretty sure Dr. Pritchard, having owned one, would probably know a little bit about it.
That's how the life
Seems a bit odd to me that you'd write rubbish like that, but anyway. I'm at a loss to know why we'd get involved in a medical centre. At the end of the day, if somebody wants to buy it and they've got doctors, well, that to me has got to be a perfect fit. Why can't we sell it to them? If they've got a doctor's practice and they want to buy the building and it was a legitimate expression, well, that to me says somebody wants to invest in the community and provide a service, and let them get on with doing it.
In response to that, thank you, Councillor Ladd. However, that decision was passed over in the last meeting to the panel, and the panel cannot. I can't say exactly what the discussion was, but you have to trust that the panel, which was well thought out and well represented, that they thought through this process for a very good reason, and unfortunately we just can't. We can't discuss it in an open forum.
It was only an advisory panel to this council to make the decision.
Yes, but we also need to make the decision that we need a doctor on the 18th of December when the doctor leaves, and we're also looking at a historic practice. And Councillor Pritchard, all I hear is wonderful things about you and your practice and when you ran it, and I understand it is really a difficult thing, I get that. We also do have staff down at Ross Corners Medical Centre who have been involved for a long time. That was part of the consideration, that they do know the process.
Did we get the advice back from the legal
team about whether it was possible to sell the property or not?
Through Mr Mayor, not yet. Still under, there's quite a considerable letter, so that needs a fair bit of research. I believe we'll be back next week.
And for that reason, a lot of these things, that's why we want to open. So we have thinking time to get it. We need a doctor. Full stop.
And it really is our in our community's interest that we continue on with, we've got the panel, we want to do it, let's just go on with it, I think, because, and this is only, let us get a doctor in 6 months' time, and we need to change something where we can, but at this stage, this is just to keep us going, so that our community has still got a doctor in our facility.
Which has historically run really well.
Yeah.
But aren't there other doctors? It's not like there won't be a doctor, is that right?
No.
There's no other doctors?
Not in Ross Corner.
No, but in the other practices.
Well, that's their business.
Their business,
That's
yeah.
their business, but we're talking about this business
Yeah.
with the council-owned infrastructure down there.
I appreciate that, but you know, as an elected official of the council, I just feel that, you know, people in the broader Shire would have concerns about, you know, us basically being involved in things that really aren't, you know, within our port of call. I mean, running a medical centre really isn't anything to do with local government. And if there was, you know, a complete lack of medical services here, well, you could probably understand some assistance to do what we could to lure a doctor, but this isn't the case really.
That's an excellent point, Councillor Lato, and that's why it came about. That's why Ross Corner came about in the beginning, because there was no doctor.
But there's a doctor wanting to buy the building and continue practicing. I mean, it's crazy.
So give us the time to work through it.
But why wouldn't we accept the...
Well, why weren't you on the panel?
Why would, like at the end of the day, we can't be everywhere. But the panel is to advise us
That's right.
on what they thought was reasonable.
That's right.
So why would the panel, like, well, I'm just thinking out loud here, why would the panel think that a doctor wanting to buy into a medical centre in your town, unless you thought they were completely incompetent?
Which should satisfy all parties until such a time as we can fully consider the implications and the feelings of the community to make an informed decision.
I think it's pretty right. The ultimate responsibility is surely the area health service and the primary health network. You know, they're the regional health providers, and they should be involved in the process.
Well, this gives us 6 months breathing space, and I think that's probably pretty important, given the community concern. And also we need to be able to grasp the, you know, which way we're going and how much.
Look, Mr. Mayor, that's all fair enough, but look, at the end of the day, I mean, we've got to be accountable to the ratepayers. Now how do you think that people in Sherman or Talbingo or anywhere are going to be satisfied that we're providing a house to somebody earning $500,000 a year?
We couldn't be certain how much they earn, but I'm sure it's substantial. Councillor Ismail.
Mr Mayor, I will support this recommendation on the understanding that it is a point in time and that it will be reviewed after the 6 months, because we are, after all, only moving towards appointing a locum. But at the same time, it will give us as a council an opportunity to investigate the viability of council being involved in this particular medical practice and making sure that the decisions we are making in relation to this medical practice are for the benefit of our Snowy Valleys Council as a whole. I would not like to see a precedent be set where this particular model suddenly becomes the aim of everyone else, all other small towns, if it's not a viable model. At that statement, we are being unfair to that doctor that is here in the town and operating. This medical centre needs a doctor, not the town. Thank you.
Councillor Lard.
Just in relation to this, would the mover and seconder be happy with You see, I just don't know where we're going to get the finances to pay for equivalent of accommodation costs. Where's the money coming from for that?
Well, we've already got a house, and we're going to
But it doesn't say
money
that,
on
it says
house.
all financial assistance.
No, yeah, the house is, I think, rented until May, from my understanding. So that lease money is coming in, so that lease money will come in and then go on to the...
But that's money,
Yeah, but that's money
that could be spent somewhere else.
That's right. And not only that, but, you know, I think at the end of the day, number 4, you know, I think if somebody is coming along and says, whether it be a community group, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce, whether it be a local doctor, whether it be a conglomerate of doctors come along and say, we want to buy that building for a long-term medical practice, why would we not do that? So I don't understand 4.
Well, that's why we're having this good 6 months to have a look into those sort of processes.
But that says it's not to be sold, so why would you exclude that?
Well,
That can be changed later on.
Why include it now?
Why not?
Well, because it'll keep the community, it'll just take the
We actually
community
passed the
forward
same
in
thing
the
last
future.
meeting as well.
Because that's what they've asked for. But look, I'll just give my... When this first came up, it was my intention that it would be a good thing to basically hand the whole situation and the operation of the medical over to the community that are so passionate about it. Unfortunately, through misinformation, obfuscation and the like,
Lies.
it got lost. And there was a rally held, there was a letter presented that created more letters in the paper and that sort of thing. And it just got lost. It just got too hard. And now we're left with this. So, you know, I'm disappointed that what I wanted for the community wasn't delivered. But the community's rallied and they've created this what we've got today. So through letters to the paper, letters to me, and a million text messages, or probably 100. So that's where we're up to. So we've got 13 recommendations there.
Can I just make another
We're
point?
still, yes, Councillor Pritchard.
The modern medical practice is no longer a one-man band anymore. We've got the practice manager, the practice nurse, we've got ancillary people working there, and you need a fair population to support and competent, well-staffed medical practice. If you look at the ones that are around nowadays, they're different to what they were in the past. And my preference, without knowing any of the great details, would be to have the medical services in one building, under the one practice manager instead of it duplicated, one practice nurse instead of having it duplicated. You know, there's not enough work really. I don't think for 2 million practices in this town.
Councillors, can I ask the gallery to be quiet, please? Sure.
Oh, you're insulting us, for goodness sake.
I'm not insulting you, I'm asking you to follow the rules. Simple.
Well, will you speak up so that we can all hear instead of muttering, please?
Could you be quiet, please?
No.
Someone might move, we go back out of, thank you, Councillor.
Just before
Councillor Cross, before you do.
I think I agree with Councillor Simon. I think it's an excellent idea to have it as an interim measure. When council does a service level review, we can then review the whole process and see if it is viable, and then we can look at what we do next.
Councillor Cross. We've got a mover to come out of committee. Seconder? Councillor Wright. All in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. We've got 13 recommendations there with
just draw your attention, Mr Mayor, to the discussion around point 11 and the lease of the existing dental and pathology centres.
Yes.
Would you like me to speak to
Do we have to move back on committee? Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
No, you will be closing the debate when you speak.
that? Okay. Happy to close the debate?
Happy for you to close the debate.
Yeah. So point 11, renegotiate the leases of the current dental and pathology service for a period of 12 months. We have good pathology services, good dental services there. Having discussed how long they've been waiting for a longer term lease, I'd like to extend that 12-month period, maybe to a 36-month period, 3 years.
That's what the previous arrangement was through, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, and 36, thank you, Councillor Pritchard. And thank you everyone for your consideration in giving us this time to get a doctor on the 18th of December so we can move forward and act on what we see today.
Councillor Cross, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Nothing further? I'll put the recommendations of 13.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. Are we putting all 13 at once?
I was going to,
I'm not
yes.
sure I agree with point 6.
I'll put them one at a time if you like.
Thank you. Sorry, but I just don't want to go to the Logan, sorry, the leaseholders. What was it? 11, sorry. Point 11. So you put 1, 10 and then do 11 if you want to.
Yes, do 11 separately. So do all of them bar, right, we'll do 11 separately rather than have them all.
Well, I'm going to be, I'll vote for parts of it, but I won't vote for it all on mass.
One by one.
Right. So we're just going to have to take this slowly, councillors, because we're going to have to document the mover, seconder, and if there's a difference in votes, in accordance with the code of meeting practice now, we record everyone's vote. So if it's unanimous, it's easy. If it's not unanimous, we have to record every individual councillor and which way they vote. So it's going to take us time to work through this, which is important. So,
Recommendation 1. All in favour? Oh,
Mr Mayor, may I suggest we take 1, 2 and 3 together to shorten the process? I would like to move points 1, 2
well,
and 3.
no,
I'd like to move 1, 2 and 3.
1, 2 and 3.
we should actually withdraw the original. So we move it, withdraw the original motion.
Do you want to do that?
Go back.
I withdraw my original move and now I will now put forward 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're happy to second that 1, 2, 3? I'll wait for Susan to catch up. 1, 2, 3? Okay, I'll put 1, 2, 3. All in favour? That's unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order for the community consideration is that all recommendations are valid for 3 months only necessarily. So they can't void out for 3 months, so anything that's voted on now can be changed without any residual motion or anything like that after 3 months.
Or change, I mean,
Or the residual motion to change it earlier, but these are locked in.
do I have a mover for number 4?
Happy to move
1,
it.
2 and 3 been done together.
4? Councillors? Right, Councillor,
There's a better one for Susan.
So Hammond Cross for 1, 2 and 3, is that correct? Hammond Cross moved 1, 2 and 3,
Yep.
and that was unanimous. So we go to item 4 now, and it's moved by
Wright, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Ham. I think we've spoken enough on everything, have we?
I don't say it's sold, that's the main thing.
Put the motion, all in favour?
record this. So that's Councillor Wright, Councillor Ham, Councillor Smith, Councillor Cross, and the balance against.
Okay, what block are we doing now?
She hasn't.
We'll just keep this first.
Mr. Mayor, could 5 and 6 be done together?
Well, we use for or against? Us for.
Mr. Mayor, you have to be recorded.
Yes, yeah, doing it. Yep, so that's in full. Councillor Hayes in full, sorry I didn't say that, Susan.
And not only that, you have to use your card to vote.
No, it's full.
No.
It's full. I'll choose to get that.
Oh, you're for it?
Yeah. Second last two. So that takes us to 5 and beyond.
So we just
Except 11, I think.
confirm to the gallery that that got through, level 4.
So that's been passed. Number 4.
So could we move then 5 to 13 minus 11?
Except for 9.
And 9.
So why don't you just do 5?
5 to 8.
5 to 8. I'm happy to move that.
Okay. Second, cross. Councillor Cross.
There's one question, as far as number 12 is concerned, your patient records and random loss of corner medicals, how are you going to do that?
We'll speak to that.
We'll speak on that when we get to it. If we just do 5 to 8. First, Councillor Pritchard. Cross. Any speaking on that? Put 5 to 8, all in favour? Councillor Pritchard's have 4.
No.
Thank you, that's unanimous. 9.
Happy to move it.
Move to 9. Councillor Ham and Wright.
And I'll just speak to that. But this was an initiative that the panel thought may help us attract a doctor. It was based on the Tumbarumba model, which is run by the council, and they give 6 months only, and then the doctor's on their own. But it's just to help a doctor come into town.
And I'll speak against it only because we're not doing the same thing in other towns that have the same problem recruiting doctors, such as Badlow, Talbingo, Adelong, and currently Sherman. So we're going to have very deep pockets.
Look, I can see that causing an issue, but it may just well be that we cut costs somewhere else in the area of Tumbarumba. Councillor Wilson. So our budget works.
Mr. Mayor, I have problems with this because there is no financial dollar actually identified. It says here, or financial assistance to the equivalent value. We don't know what the rent of the house is. That could be how long's a piece of string. I would like to see it a little bit more strong about just what it means as to what the house available is, or what rental is there, what we're talking about. That's too vague for me.
Through the chair, the house is currently rented through an agency, so I would say the value would be equivalent to the market value that we're currently getting.
That's fine, but it doesn't say that.
We can add that in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
You read on the second market value, right treaty with that one?
I would imagine to be something equivalent to a fraction under $10,000.
Can we just identify where the money's coming from, as soon as you know?
Through the chair, I might hand to Mr. Stone in regards to our economic development assistance policy.
We do have an economic development assistance policy, which is out for public consultation at the moment. Previous decision by the council to provide assistance to attract a doctor in a different medical centre has not been acted on. There is sufficient room in the economic development operational budget to be able to afford this up to a total of 10,000.
Through the chair.
And the balance of the...
I don't take that on notice, Mr. Mayor. So we've offered $3,500 for the previous decision, and this was for a previous decision of council in a former meeting for a different medical centre, and 3 months is $3,500, so twice that is $7,000, so it's about $10,500.
Councillors, would you like to set a ceiling, a dollar figure on that, the ceiling? Do you want to set it at $9,000, for the value of $9,000 or below? Or maximum, 9,000? 8,000? 5,000?
I think we need to do what it takes. So, you know, market value, whatever that is, and we're not quite sure. And the other thing that's not being said is this actually is a viable business. So, you know, we're talking about money, but the centre does give that money to the council. Like any business, you've got to put money in to make it work.
Through the chair, there is obviously some discrepancy in relation to the fact that the house that is currently rented has been paying $3,000 to $10,000 rental, and that money has been coming in to council. That money will now no longer come to council.
Correct.
And we will be paying for another house. So my point is that the council is going to definitely be in a situation where money is not coming into the council where previously it had. And that's one of the reasons why I would like to see this more strongly stated. I don't want a doctor to come in and go off and rent a house of his own choosing and then still be entitled to receive $10,000 or $7,000 because it's the equivalent funding he's going to get.
Through the chair, Sarah's just done calculations. So at the moment, for 6 months, we receive $8,800. So you might wish to consider putting a ceiling value on that amount. Therefore, it's equivalent to the current. So you might wish to put a ceiling of $9,000 on that.
But it says financial assistance. It means you can get the money without actually renting the house.
That's correct.
So that's part of it that I don't want. I mean,
So they can live in a tent and still get $9,000.
I'm not trying to be ridiculous.
No, I'm not. I'm
They
saying
could if they wanted to live in a tent
want, yeah.
and get $8,000.
Yeah.
Councillors, we're
No,
just going backwards and forwards. We
Have to move.
have to move on with this one. Can I put the motion? Or do you want to add a ceiling? What do you want?
What? That's been changed.
Hasn't been changed?
So that now
Okay,
reads
to
make a house-
9,000.
The council make a house available for up to 6 months for the use of a doctor or financial assistance to the value of the current market value to be given for accommodation costs.
We know what the market value is.
Yeah. All right. I know.
Put the motion. All in favour?
Yeah.
Ham, Wright, Cross, Isselman, Pritchard, Hayes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Four.
Okay.
That's yours.
Okay.
What do you?
Councillor
what about
Smith, you voted?
I didn't cast a vote.
So you'll be against.
You'll be against if you don't cast a vote.
So that's Vada and Smith.
Okay. Thank you, councillors. So that's gone through. Number 10.
I'd like to move number 10.
Thank you, councillor Ham. Councillor Wright. Councillor Ham. That's for 36 months? Yeah?
No, let's reconvene a panel with the GP expression.
10. Oh, sorry, I'm on 11. Yep. Just 10. Councillor Lardner.
Could we maybe change it to reconvene a panel?
And speaking of that, I did forget to say
It would
that.
be convene a panel.
Convene, yes.
So it's up to move on this.
Moving second, happy with that? Happy with that? We just convene a panel? Yep. Put a motion, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Sorry, now we're on 11.
I'll move that.
Do you want 11, 12, 13?
No, I think people want to discuss 11.
11. Councillor Ham. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm concerned
Are
about...
you seconding this?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I thought you were seconding. Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry.
Right. I'll let Councillor Ham speak first, then I'll let you. Councillor Ham.
Oh.
You're chewing your fingernails.
No, I'm waiting to hear it.
No,
You're opening the debate.
Okay, I think I did speak on this, that we have two very good lessons down there. We want to look after them and keep them, because it's a great service to Tumbarumba.
And somebody.
Councillor Wilson.
I have no question about what Councillor Ham's just said, but my point is that if we go to a 36-month lease for these people, we may be a bit disingenuous if we at time, in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, change our views on this, and they're stuck with something that they got at 3 months ahead of time, or 3 years, and I don't think that's being particularly fair to the people involved who are running those medical services.
It's a double-edged sword, Councillor Risserman, because while it locks those people in, it also locks the next council in as well, and unless they change it, which they can. But it may be at a cost. Councillor Wright.
Well, I think anybody who wanted to, say, lease the building overall, or buy it if they wanted to, and there was already long-term leases in there, it's an asset, not a liability.
So this is sublet.
The only argument against that is that any medical practice that comes in is likely to have a locked-in service provider with pathology and X-ray and all that sort of stuff as well. So we have to be careful.
Yeah. I think for the object of this exercise
is to keep it.
Because it gives them continuity.
We'll cross the other bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Finished debate? Councillor Hayes?
Yes, I'm happy with that.
I'll put the motion, 11, all in favour? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you.
No,
You're... Sorry. Unanimous except for Councillor Bismarck.
we will wait and see.
And then I'd be happy to move 12 and 13.
Can I ask a question on number 12? How are you going to ensure that patient records remain?
Would you like to second it?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll move number
Yeah.
12, you second number 12,
Yeah.
if that's
Well,
all right with you.
I'm just asking the question, how are you going to make sure that the records stay there? The records are the intellectual property of the doctor.
So Councillor Pritchard, this is a really, really good point, that people in town are really, really concerned that the records can leave town, and they don't want them to leave town, and that's why we actually use the word ensure.
But how can you ensure?
Well, we've actually talked to the doctor about it, and there is a cost involved in it, and he is willing at a cost to make sure the records stay here. I actually don't know.
Well, we're undertaking to pay an unknown amount of money to keep the medical records.
I don't know, because I can't recall the amount, but he was happy on the amount.
Councillor Ham, can we just get a second before
Certainly,
you start
Mr.
having
Mayor.
private conversations? Councillor Cross, thank you. So we'll take that on notice because we don't know how much it costs. But we'll find out and we'll let you know. We'll let the community know so they know how much it costs.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? If we ensure the patient records remain at the Ross Corner Medical Centre, if that was sold to another entity, does the medical records go with Ross Corner Medical Centre as an entity and therefore leave town, or does that mean that the records will in fact stay in that location?
But we've just voted against selling it.
That's it's a legal issue, it's a medical legal issue that I'm not sure of, but it's one that's caused issues in other towns, and we need to be very much on top of it. Councillor Rado.
I was just going to say, I just think that the motion itself is probably illegal, because we're asking to do something that isn't the law. So it's the legal right of the doctor to keep those records. And it's obviously a standard practice in the industry. It will go on in every town, in every major city, in every suburban place. And, you know, I think the best thing you can do is probably ask a remainder. I mean, we can't ensure.
Look, I think most medical practices see them as collateral, and that's the way it is. And I'm sure that's the way the doctor will see it. So what we're saying in idea is to ensure that they remain there. Maybe it should be ensured to the, you know, to the best of our ability.
You know, I think you need something in there. You know, I don't think you need to tie us into, you know, the fact that we're going to be spending hundreds of thousands on legal defences to keep patient records.
Do you, move and second are happy if we put to the best of our ability in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Wilson?
It's my own family personal experience that when a medical practitioner has moved premises, that family records of medical for 5 or 7 years have been lost, and there was no recognition of family at all. Our family lost our medical records, and there was no way that we could ensure our records were in any way held anywhere. They moved their premises and our records were lost.
And I think this is one of the strengths of the Commonwealth scheme.
Yes.
And you know, rather than
It's a big concerning time.
rather than seeing it as a conspiracy, I would see it as probably a good thing to do.
Yes.
So, councillors, we have there the change number 12 and the change to 13. So we've got number 12 moved and seconded. I'll put the motion all in favour. That's unanimous. No,
Sorry, my apologies.
Sorry.
Go home.
And that brings us to number 13.
I'll move that, Mr. Lee.
Thank you so much. And Councillor Wright, just there on your left.
I'd just like to speak on this.
Sorry, God.
So the panel was saying, you know, that there's anxiety in town about having a doctor in at Ross Corner. They wanted that put in there, so if there was a cost that that we needed to move very quickly in order to get a doctor, that we could.
Look, I think the thing about this is it will give us an idea of the total cost of this whole operation.
Exactly.
And I think, you know, that's only reasonable and it's responsible as well. So the community will know what it costs as well as us.
Or if there's a problem.
Nothing further, councillors?
I withdraw my no.
Councillor Smith?
Can we put a time limit on number 13?
After the next election.
I'm not sure that's necessary. What's the other councillors think? Scott 13, can I put the motion? Everyone finished? Put the motion all in favour? Any against? No one's against, that means everyone's for. Thank you. Councillors, this brings us back to 9.1. On page 34.
Page 37 electronically.
So this was in response to the allegations and complaints and letters, I think, that went away from the community. So Tim Hurst has come back with those. Probably asks a few more questions, doesn't it, the letter? So I've got the 4 recommendations there. Someone happy to move those? Councillor Smith? Councillor Cross? Councillor Smith?
My reading of the letter suggested a very well thought out and objective assessment of the situation and of the matters that have been put to the OLG and unbiased and reflective, as you said, on...
We have a series of significant changes through no fault of our own that we are required to implement over the coming years. So there's going to be large annual change around our rating for our area.
and we've asked the Minister to give consideration for that. The Deputy Secretary for Local Government has called all amalgamated councils into a forum regarding this because it is such a significant issue. And with the amalgamation money, we've set aside, I believe, $100,000.
To know if we can have some kind of a breakdown of what each town generates in terms of rates, so that we can look at similarities and probably where there are issues that around harmonisation of them.
Noting that the biggest rate payers are the agricultural.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to. If we can have
I'm
a
sure we
breakdown.
can manage something along those lines, but by postcode?
So through the Chair, we can certainly do that. That will certainly be part of the rates review process.
Yeah.
So it depends on timing. So do you want something quick and easy immediately that gives a rough indication, and then you'll get the detail later on during that harmonisation process around the different categories, the possible categories, the areas of location, those sorts of things.
So the difficulty arises is when you do that, and some of your rates notices are posted out to Phillip Street or Macquarie Street or Mossman or Watson's Bay or whatever, and that happens a bit. It's sort of a bit hard to pull it out, but I'm sure that Shelley's team will be able to do it.
I think, Mr. Mayor, we can do an initial analysis.
Yeah, just a really broad brush.
In fact, we've started to do something like that work as part of the initial service level review.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it fits in nicely with the service levels review. Thank you.
Councillor's going to put the motion, the recommendations, 1 to 4.
I didn't get that.
Say again. Councillor Pritchard? Carried. Unanimous. Thank you. Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference, Warwick Farm, Sydney. Councillor Smith, you meeting with? Sure. Thank you. Councillor Cross?
Does it mean I have to speak to it?
No, it doesn't mean you have to speak, but sorry, I was really a bit cheeky there.
I can speak to you.
Councillor Cross?
The conference was really good, and what I found really heartening was the fact that there was a lot of emphasis on waste and how we, this issue of our waste, given that we can't send it overseas anymore, was high on the agenda. And the other issue that I found interesting was that there's about $1 billion that the Commonwealth has got sitting on that can be put back into councils to help them develop strategies around looking at their waste. And as Councillor Ham and I are going down to Maroondah to have a look at their FOGO system, it's a really good time to think about how we can progress our waste circular community economy, whatever it's called.
Thank you. Nothing further. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Unanimous.
Report on page 83, electronically. Page 80, both copies.
Okay, council meeting dates and calendar. Councillor Smith, Councillor Wright. Nothing further?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
You'd like to speak?
Yes.
Yes, right. Okay. Councillor Lady, you speaking first?
I was just going to ask about January and the timing of the new executive, on whether they'll be in place and it would be beneficial to have a January meeting.
Through the Chair, I don't typically run a January meeting because we have skeleton staff over that shutdown period, and so if you trace back the dates and look at the preparation of report times, etc., then that is a very difficult meeting to run. However, I'm happy to schedule a not official meeting, but a get-together if the new executive has started.
I think every general manager I've ever had anything to do with has said the exact same thing, and then we've ended up having a January meeting.
That's because Councillor Pritchard has moved that in the 2 years.
You always put in there, extraordinary meeting.
Through the Chair, Mr. Mayor, can I move to committee, please?
We might be
Councillor,
bushfires at that time of the year. That's what I already have.
Do you have a seconder?
I don't know,
Yeah.
you haven't asked.
Yes, Councillor.
Councillor Hannah.
I'm seconding it.
Sorry, I was just groaning. All in favour? Carried.
Can I speak?
No.
You want to speak?
Councillor Lisselman. Councillor Lisselman?
Thank you so much. I am concerned that we are debating many issues on our reserves and our council funding and what it costs us to operate. And I am concerned that we continue to have an expense in relation to having to go live with our council meetings and removing from June to Tumbarumba every other month. And the cost to staff and the cost to our ratepayers is enormous, because it's not a cheap exercise to do this constant moving between two council chambers. And it concerns me that we need to look very carefully in ensuring we while about where we should be meeting and what times we should be meeting. So for that reason, this report mentions where we'll be meeting third Thursday of each month and council chambers between Tumbarumba and Tumut. I would like very much that these council dates are not set in place to be at either Tumut and Tumbarumba and ensuring we're up here. I'd like to see us have a more consistent council chamber that gives a real savings for us in our council spending in relation to meeting times.
Thank you, Councillor Lisselman. Councillor Ross.
I second what Margaret, Councillor Risson was saying, and I, you know, when you look at all this technology that supports us being able to send out live to the community, we are talking about the duplication of this service around and I appreciate the fact that we need to be in the two places throughout the calendar year. But what would be the cost to the community if we continue to duplicate just the technology, irrespective of the fact that so many of us travel from other places to be in the different locations.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, in moving this motion, I note number 3 for the additional ordinary policy and strategy meetings to be held. I think that's a very positive move, and it will help us, I think, in deliberating a lot of these issues that come up. But in terms of the comments made by Councillor Risselman, perhaps one way of reducing that cost, rather than alternate months, can we suggest maybe meeting in one location for a quarter and then another, the other location, and in other words, swapping it quarterly instead of monthly?
Look, I'm quite satisfied with the way it is at the moment, and I'm very happy for the new council to change things in the time. But we've only got 8 meetings to go. Something like that.
I totally agree, and I think it's good that we can have people from Tumbarumba turn up easily if they wish to and be part of our council. I think it's important that we have everybody involved as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, well look, the former Tumut council used to go to Batlow and tell Bingo and Adelong for their council meetings as well. Now,
Years ago, it can go.
Yeah, those people are not getting the service now. Now, I know technology is difficult, but anyhow, we'll have to get around that. In the meantime, can we move back out of committee and get this motion?
Yeah, can we just take the numbers out because they're not very...
Oh, the 4 of them, yeah. So, moving Councillor Wright to move out, Councillor Isselman, all in favour? That's unanimous.
Smith and Wright, the removers.
Smith and Wright, the removers of this recommendation, put to motion, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Moving on. Investments. Councillor Ham, Councillor Isselman.
I'd like to move this, however, I'd like to ask, what is the $476,000 $88,000 vegetation clearance, Alpine Way about. I don't understand. Oh, sorry, it's page 88, and it's, but some of the money's been taken
Is that the
out.
landslides?
The expenditure related to the Alpine Way landslip. It's just the payment of those expenses going out the door.
So, does anyone put them back in again? Like, do we then, because that was a natural disaster, do we get that money back?
Yes.
Great. And sorry, it's really, Mr. Mayor. I know interest rates are really low, but God, 1.6, there's nothing, that's as good as you get.
That is the best rate of the day.
Yeah, wow.
We normally get, sorry, through the chair, we normally get 3 quotes
Yeah.
for each investment. And that's just the rate.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, nothing further? Councillor Cross, sorry.
I would really like to commend who put this document together. I would really like the story behind the figures. It really made it clear and transparent to understand where those, how all those figures came around. The one thing I do notice is that the running of the Tumbarumba, the Tumbarumba Caravan Park contributed 88,000 to the overspend. So it just keeps on taking.
Thank you.
Just keeps giving.
Okay.
The income's increased from the caravan park though.
Yes.
Through the
Yep.
chair, it's seasonal as well. I think the high period is
Yeah, booked out completely over December, January, and merging into February as well with Summerfest. So that's increasing our income rapidly.
Maybe we could ask for a report fairly soon.
After the year.
After
Yeah.
the year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank
Thank you. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Unanimous. NCIF and SCF quarterly report. Seems to be going well there. Councillor Cross, Councillor Ham. Anything further?
Which is just great to see the interest that we've earned on that money. Fantastic.
Well, it's just great to see that the report that you've improved so much.
Just a quick question.
Incredible.
On the second page, HRP, what's that? It's on the Enterprise System Consolidation, Tech 1. I was wondering what HRP was.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a module in Tech 1 that manages the HR system.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
we're also rolling payroll
Okay.
functionality into that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, at this stage, do we go into committee because there was something that we might have wanted to discuss in here on the projects in Batley?
Thank you, Councillor Ham.
Oh.
Seconder, Councillor Batlow, Councillor Isselman. All in favour? That's carried. Councillor Ham.
I'm quite happy to defer that to councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just a very big shout out to the town team who will be doing the Batlow's Main Street project and the upgrade. It is a spectacular change to the central business area of Batlow. If there is one project that is getting magnificent bang for our buck, it is just that. We're not paying $1 million per 100 metres, as happened in Gundagai and a few other towns which you mentioned. We're getting an incredibly good upgrade of the township. It looks good, it's got a high rating for durability. It's a wonderful, wonderful exercise. And the caravan park, we await our new modules to arrive, as all caravan parks do. And I was blessed to be able to speak about our wonderful exercise of making all our caravans with mobile units at the conference where I was at on Monday and Tuesday in Cooma. And people were saying, gosh, that's a great idea. That's a really positive thing to be doing to caravan parks and gives you such flexibility. And I thought, oh, well, we know how to make decisions. So I'd just like to say, The other thing is that Peterbell Road was really on the agenda on that conference too, which was really exciting. But I'm more interested to hear, if I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, where we're up to with Batlow Cannery.
I'll pass over to the director for that.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Council officers have been scoping the market for people to be able to demolish the cannery. If you recall, councillors, that a few meetings ago, council determined to undertake a targeted demolition of the Batlow Cannery within the budget that's been allocated. Fortunately, the council, the contractors who put in expressions to that have said that they can do all of the cannery to be demolished within the budget we have. They just need a window of opportunity, and they can start reasonably soon. So, thought that was well worth to update particularly to the community. That it won't be just the targeted demolition of some buildings; it will be demolition of all of the buildings. There will be remaining on the site the concrete pads because they could be the potential for reuse, but the rest of the buildings will be demolished on site.
Councillor.
Thank God something's happening on the cannery. Brilliant, fantastic. However, I just think tourism-wise and artistically-wise, if we could keep some of that facade at the front, particularly as there are some unique businesses, boutique businesses that would like that sort of character. And you look at it in, like we went on the bus tour down to Wilson's and what they did there. I realise we don't have that, but we do have a bit of a facade that can give that sort of warmth and that retro look to it all. I would like to see that remain.
Do you mean the facade or the?
Just the facade.
The bricks. It's just the front.
Just the bricks at the front. So you've got that quirky look at the front.
Heritage look.
Heritage look.
No, the whole building. The whole brick building. Not just
whatever stands. Do you know what I mean? Like.
I know that the facade.
No, I'm only talking aesthetically.
Right.
So what works that way?
Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I really think that the building itself, for the funding required to upgrade it to the level of a viable tourist facility, is beyond the life of that building. And I understand that there is some consideration in relation to the bricks in the project that it's coming in to do this. Is that correct? They want the bricks to do other things?
Yeah, there's essentially two ways that we could manage this operationally. We could retain the brick shoal, if you like, of building A. Yeah, sort of to the front and on the left. But that would mean we'd need to bring material in to fill some of the holes and trenches that are on the site from its previous use. And so you could build a new building that replicates the old building. Many of those buildings are structurally unsound, but the brickwork, as you pointed out, Councillor Ham, is still reasonably sound. But I think there's been an operational decision to move all of those off the site. I did fail to mention before, though, that the one we won't be removing is the Bullnose former administration building, which was built sometime later. It's sort of a little bit separate from the site, but that'll remain there because it's still there.
So just to be clear, the contemporary Bullnose building is to remain.
Is remaining.
The building Councillor Ham is talking about is the double-storey red brick building.
Yes, and
without a roof.
It's been historically part of one building, which was on the left-hand side, facing it was a brick, and then joining that was a steel, what they call a dome, bow truss building.
Yeah.
The metal part of that building, the steel part of the building, is unsafe. And it would need
so it's to go.
It should go.
Yeah.
It could be retained. The brick part could be retained. but I think the operation was...
But there's a cost in retaining it, is that what you're trying to say?
There is a cost in retaining it. We would need to bring about $10,000 worth of more material into the site to fill the holes, and it would be well placed for council to put a roof structure over the top to prevent any further deterioration from the weather. And so that extra work would be out of our budget.
Get rid of it.
Move out committee.
Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I've had some discussion with some of the locals about this. I received a phone call from the acting director about it, and the feedback that I've had from the people that I've spoken to is that they would be quite happy to see the whole site cleared. However, if that building was able to be saved, they'd be happy with that as well. But generally speaking, as long as we maintain or keep the bullnose building at the front. And I have a question about that. Is that in fact on the same title, or is it a separate title, that building?
But there's a number of titles on that site. It's very difficult to be able to give a straight answer to that. Some of the title boundaries actually go between buildings, so it's essentially by itself. But if you wanted to sort of carve that off, for want of a better term, to be used separately, you would have to do some subdivision work.
But it possibly could be. Anyhow, so the feedback is that the community is happy to see the whole site cleared, that they'll be very pleased to see it cleared. But if that building that we're talking about, the double-storey brick building, can be saved in a substantially usable condition, they'd be happy for that as well. So they're kind of happy with whatever decision our council people have to make.
So, through you, Mr Mayor, my initial conversation about this was to say thank you to everybody who's working on the projects. What we've discussed is operational, and move out of committee and go back to recommendations.
I'll just ask a question for
Before we go out, yes?
Yes?
Yes.
This will probably have to go to Bill. Things like Rosewood Golf Club was budgeted on for 216 completed, and there's 216 was spent. So there's 20,000 there or whatever. What happens, it's a general question with any of these, what happens when you're under budget? Who gets the money?
Within within the funding around, that is, so if it's the Newcastle Implementation Fund or whatever, there is generally overs and unders between projects, and so if there's one over, we would take some savings from another and move it into that to make sure we can achieve it all.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Whistleman?
I support it.
All in favour? Thank you. Unanimous around. So that brings us to the recommendation there, the NCI and SCF. Do you want a third recommendation regarding the brick building?
It's operation.
It's operation.
No, we need a resolution. I move we keep it.
Yeah, I'm with Councillor Lyle.
So you do want a third recommendation, and you're moving at 3.
If the mover and seconder are happy.
No, I'm not happy with it.
You're not the second.
No, you have to bring your own motion. I'm not happy with that.
Okay, well, we can put the first recommendation. We've got Cross and Ham for the first one, and then if you like, Councillor Lyle, you can bring another amendment. Or do you want to move an amendment or a third recommendation?
Put those through, and then we'll do it.
Those two?
Those two.
All in favour? Carried. Councillor Lyle.
I'll move that the council resolve to keep the brick facade.
It's not a facade, it's a building.
Building.
It's a shell.
However you want to word it.
At the back road carriage site, at the additional cost of
60,000.
And you're prepared to spend them.
Let's just, so we've got a mover, seconded, councillor Hand.
I just note that if you've got a council resolution where you're going to spend extra money, you have to note where that money's coming
From the project development fund, 98,000.
How can it cost $60,000 if you're leaving it there? You just
So
leave it.
you've got to put a roof over it to stabilise it, you've got to find an extra $10,000 for Phil.
It's been
Phil just
sitting
told
there
you
with
that
no
he needs
roof
Phil
for
on site.
ages.
Project development fund, I think it was
Yeah.
98,000.
I think we don't have to put a dollar figure in there. We just have to, if you just want to move that we retain it, we can do that.
That's all I want.
From,
Project development fund.
we could do it from the overs and unders within the
No.
funding round? No, there's no unders. Yeah, all right.
You don't
Isn't there
have,
98,000 in the project development fund to build that project?
20,000 in Roseville.
you don't have to put a roof over it.
No, it's good.
No.
It's in the thing.
In the financial statements?
Hmm?
Talking about this,
Project
about the
development,
reserve, not in the grant.
in the reserve. In reserve, yeah.
However,
However,
we would be looking to utilise some of that money to fund the deficit.
yeah.
You can put the motion through.
You can put the motion without the 60,000 in it.
Yeah.
Not
Put a
really.
motion up that's going to cost council more
No, it's
money,
gonna
you need
cost.
to say where it's coming
Been
from.
advised it's going to cost. I'm giving you an option to fund it.
From the
It
aerodrome.
might well be funded from the sale
From
of
the
the
aerodrome.
property, because the sale of the property would be much more likely with a heritage building on top of it.
I think you might have said on something there, councillor Smith.
Excuse me, sir. Are we back into committee?
No, we're not really, but, so we're just getting the motion right.
All right.
Does the man need some chocolate?
Thank you.
Would you like to, that reserve?
From the project development fund reserve.
So I think the note that just came from the acting director of internal services was that those funds have been tagged for use in the next quarterly budget review, which will make the next quarterly budget review more difficult by $60,000.
It would cost that originally.
Look, you can change
Sorry,
it
are we in
by,
committee, sir?
well, I'm just trying to fix his motion up first.
You're
Okay?
still
We're
doing
not-
that, you've had a lot to say.
We need a lot of fixing.
Just, but it's $10,000 to retain it, we're told, so we can just change that to $10,000 and then subsequently look for the money for the roof later.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to go. That doesn't confuse it too much, it doesn't make it expensive.
Happy with that.
Well, you
Let's
get
do
to
that.
vote on that.
Can always get the SVS department.
So through the chair.
And I second that.
Through the chair, could I just note that there is substantial legal risk if you maintain that facility without the proper bracing for that structure. Hence, the reason the engineer's report, which we have back from an external consultant, suggests that that building needs to be stabilised and you need to spend the money to do that.
Back to my original one.
I think you need the 60,000.
Well, we'll put 60,000 in and see how it goes on the vote. Mr. Stubbs.
Mr Mayor, if I could just ask the councillors to consider that during the demolition process, there may be additional issues raised about the brick building that may mean that it can't possibly be kept. Just there may be a challenge on that operationally. I just don't want to have to come, unless the council wants to, but that means we would have to bring back another resolution of the council to change that.
The intent of my motion is that if it becomes operationally impossible or that figure's exceeded, then go with option A.
Maybe you better off delegating to the
Take it out altogether then.
to
Take it out altogether.
Keen to get rid of it.
There's no romance.
You are, that's perfect.
Of course you are, Bruce.
So we've got another option, Councillor General
Can I
Manager.
suggest that, not that I really want this responsibility, but that you may wish to put up there to delegate to the General Manager to spend up to $60,000 to preserve that building, and if the costs exceed that, to proceed with the full demolition of that building.
I'm happy with that. It's a change. So I've got, is the seconder happy with that?
So as soon as it goes over the 60,000, I will be authorising the operations of the organisation to remove it. So as we go through, if there's structural issues around that, that's going to cost us over $60,000 to do, because the community want to see this happen quickly, because we've got the commitment of a current contractor to get in and get it done now. We need a rapid decision. We can't bring it back to council. I will, of course, email you and let you know what's happening immediately that I become aware of that, but we don't have to wait for a council decision. You still have to vote on this. This is only
let's
this
get
gets
on
up.
Let's get the vote done. So who wants to go on that?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm voting not, because we haven't spoken, given the opportunity to speak against it, and I speak strongly against it.
Right.
I agree
The
with
same, I remember the same argument went on years ago at Gundagai at the old bridge, the old road bridge, when they put the bypass in. And the community jumped up and down and wanted to preserve the heritage of this. In fact, the roads RTA gave them $100,000 or something like that to go towards the preservation of it. And we've watched it deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate, and it's been a continuing eyesore. And they've tried to paint it periodically, but it's falling down. It's going to cost the polish to remove it. I think the building is time expired. I don't think it's got any heritage value. I think it would get rid of it straight away.
Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that the community, my reading of the community is that they would be happy with that
Motion.
motion.
Okay, nothing further?
Sorry, yes, please.
Councillor Lardy, would you like to close the, oh, sorry?
No, I am deeply concerned that we are considering holding anything of that building. And I see it as an absolute waste of money through the council. We've spent enormous amounts of money on it already and in time, and this is just complicating the whole issue. I understand that if the general manager doesn't up 60,000, but what if it's 40,000? We're left with a building standing there that costs us a lot of money on and on and on. We end up having to take it down anyway. I just can't see the reason for us to keep it in any way at all.
Thank you. Passionately put. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Lardy, would you like to close it today?
Only that I think it's a very small risk and outlay compared to a lot of other things that we do.
Point of order.
And when we get a commercial opportunity, and that ends up being something like the licorice factory in Junee in 5 years' time, I think it'll be very.
Dreams.
Here,
Yes.
Okay, put the motion. All in favour? Against? That's carried on the casting vote. Moving on. That's a first.
Yeah. We have had that.
Good on you, James.
Gotta have a win sometime. Come on, let's do the QBR.
Let's go on, guys.
We'll just get this one recorded properly to make sure we're right here.
there do we need a coffee break?
She's only got a copy in the car.
You'll be great.
9.8, councillors.
Happy to move that.
Councillor Hand. Councillor Lada.
Page of the-
Councillors, if I may, you're on page
101. Well, that's the,
Or 104 in the, down the bottom.
104 electronically, item 9.8.
Thank you.
Thanks for the report. Councillors, can I just note that there's some concerns in the quarterly budget review. We've taken a position of being transparent about the issue and taking a very conservative approach on the worst case scenario. There is an aim to bring this issue back into control, and we have a number of measures in place that will assist us with that. It is a difficult position, and it's one that I have been in previously with an amalgamated council, where you start to get a better handle on the finances as the consolidation happens, and it raises issues around long-term sustainability. We have made considerable savings already, and you adopted the organisation structure recently, which is aimed to contribute $1 million worth of savings that will assist in this process, and we should start to see those savings coming through in the new year when we recruit the new executive team. So certainly there are some rather large issues here, and I believe that we should be taking a controlled and informed approach to going out and consulting the community about changes to service levels that will bring the budget back into an acceptable position. Could I ask the Director of Internal Services to go into some detail?
Would I just be able to pick up a typo on this first so that people can understand, just because it helped me so much. Just on page 167, projected end year loss, so that's the third column along down the bottom line, where it says 48 million, it should have been 26,457. And the same with the revised budget. So the revised budget, so column 3 and column 5, it should be 26,457. So
Thanks.
if that can be reflected in the minutes.
Councillor Ham, we will reflect that in the minutes, and we will attach an updated version of the quarterly review document that has those figures
Thank you
corrected.
very much. Sorry.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just to pick up where the General Manager left off. An initial analysis suggests that Council has an underlying operating deficit. We believe there's a number of significant issues that need to be resolved, and some things are actually muddying the water, which has probably caused us to lose sight of the operational deficit over time, and they are obviously the amalgamation and consolidation financial systems, and some trying to get visibility and verifying former council's numbers in some areas. The second thing is also around the fact that we went and had a very aspirational budget for this year, which we now realise will be very hard to achieve. So this report in front of you today looks at bringing the actual budget back into alignment with what we expect to spend. And as the General Manager alluded to, there's a real need to assess the situation in a methodical way to minimise the risk of mistakes as we move forward, and to give us time to make sure that we have an accurate picture of the situation. And we're asking Council to give us that time by making these adjustments and by endorsing some of the remedial action to bring us back into a better operating position. However, I do need to bring attention to councillors that the Division Manager of Finance and IT did allude to the fact that this potentially, because of the way the grant funding is accounted for, received and then spent, we will be looking at predicted losses in the next few years until we can get the ship back on course. So that's not a new piece of information. What is new is the extent of the loss. And the other thing is that we did put our hand up quite early when Council adopted the resourcing strategy, and then inside of that the Council improvement plan, in identifying that we would need to be able to look seriously at our levels of service and implement some corrective action soon, we're just escalating that and bringing that forward.
And I think it has to be noted that, you know, we just passed a financial statement at the end of last year that we had $3 million profit. So, you know, there is the up and down as well.
And Councillor Ham's absolutely correct. So that is, again, is the way that the grant funds are impacting on our results. So the profit, because the income was received last year, but it's also exacerbating our loss situation we're predicting actually in this financial year because we're spending it all, but we recognise the income last year.
So can I just note, so the community looks at everything from a cash accounting point of view. Local government hasn't worked on cash accounting for a very long time. So we receive the money in 1 year. It makes it look really good because you can see that on your books. But we spend the money the next year, but we're just spending the money that we received the previous year. So that is exacerbating the issue. But we do have an underlying issue about financial sustainability as well. So it's hard for the community thinking cash accounting to apply it to the way that the accounting standards make us note our financial statements.
So, I would just like to make a comment that if right at the stage we're receiving this financial statement in relation to funding, and previously you passed that we've spent $60,000, I'm not sure I can assume that that's a good logical way of progressing through our council meeting.
So through the chair, I did note that this report was coming up and that we had planned in the next quarterly budget review to use that money elsewhere. All I can do is follow that.
Should we be in committee?
I don't think it's necessary. I think we can, you're happy to close the debate? No, you want to, you're happy to ask questions of comments.
Would you just outline, you know, $4.6 million loss and the grants and whatever, but and it's a budget. It's 3 months into the financial year, so I applaud the fact that this has come to our attention straight away, so we can immediately say, right, let's pull back. Where are you thinking we can make the major changes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ham, we're aggressively going to be pursuing private works, and one of our big issues is the fact that on advice from the RMS we cut the budget right back because they've given us an early indication that potentially that we wouldn't get the work that we would have in other years, and so that's one big area. Obviously salaries and wages is another. And look, I'm just going to put it out there, there is some service level creep. So in what I mean by that is that in response to community sentiment, which is coming up through the council, we are providing additional services, not in roads, however the data is very clear there, in some areas and most notably in parks and gardens. And that's what we know at this point in time. So I do need to stress that. So we've done an initial analysis on the big ticket items, roads and parks and gardens. We've identified an issue. There is still more work to do.
Could you just speak on the redundancies that are coming up? I know we're saving. Hopefully the restructure saves $1.2 million in a year, but our redundancies come to.
Well, at the moment, the adjustment that's in this quarterly budget review is for the exit of the directors. That's being funded out of the employee leave entitlements reserve.
Right.
However, it's pertinent to note at this point through the organisational restructure we are anticipating more,
Yes.
and that'll hit in the second budget review.
Do you have any idea about how much that will be?
I can't say at this point in time.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have one. Did I hear somewhere or other that we might be getting more private works coming available, like from Snowy 2.0?
Through the chair, we have lodged, we are trying to get our third-party works back up and going, and that has been a KPI that you've given myself and that I've passed through our relevant teams. We do have the experience to do external works and make a surplus from those external works which can offset our operational costs, and we've done that quite successfully in the past across both areas. And we have at the moment lodged a number of tenders. We're waiting to hear back from those. we are hearing some positive comments in regards to that, but we don't have confirmation of those yet. But if we do those works, we'll be able to utilise the expertise of our workforce and get out there and get those works done. That extra money that we bring back in will be able to offset some of these issues. So it's definitely something that we need to proceed to do, and a lot of local governments are having this issue about you have a 2.7 rate cap, you have a community that expects a higher level of service standards. The two don't balance out. If you just look at the standard for wage rises alone, that consumes a lot of that 2.7%. Because we are, and being in a rural regional area, we rely a lot on our own workforce, and we run a lot of things on a day labour basis, so it has a larger impact on us than what it does for some of the urban councils. And these are the sorts of things that we need to do to be able to satisfy the community. And we've had, very clear comment back from the community with the community sounding board saying they're happy with our levels of service. And we talked about the cost of increasing service or decreasing service. But we haven't actually gone back to them to say how all that balances up, and that's part of the future stages that we have to do. So, as you know, at home, you earn so much income. If you look at your kitchen budget, you put aside some money for rent, some money for fuel in the car, some money for groceries, and when all that adds up to more than what you actually bring in, you have to cut it back somehow, and we have to make choices. I am very pleased to say, though, there are some massive efficiency gains that we've got already that we can see, and we've made some good inroads to that, and that's really pleasing to see. We've got more to go.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just for the record, if Snowy Works and Services was still in action in its full capacity as it was before the merge, what would be the annual income to council from Snowy Works?
Look, it's hard to say. It would depend on how many tenders were won.
$1 million, $2 million throughout the years?
Well, it was $1 million in the last year that it operated.
Yes, aren't we still doing that anyhow through private work?
We still do.
It's just semantics.
So through the chair, we've decreased that. So during amalgamation, there was a choice to shut down Snowy Works and Services and roll it in. We still do have the systems and processes and a lot of the expertise inside the organisation, but we focused that staff towards the massive amount of external funds we've got to build stuff in our area. And now we're starting to come out the other side of that. That workforce that we have needs to be occupied, and it needs to be occupied through these third-party works, and so we've got to build that up. We have also lost the RMS works, so there was quite a lot of money for Go Cup Road, etc. The council was able to use as third-party works. RMS have a responsibility, obviously, across the state. The attention around the Go Cup Road area has now moved elsewhere in the state, so the profit that we're making out of those projects has decreased, so we need to fill that with something else. And our team is doing a fantastic job of lodging tenders to find alternatives for that.
Can I just ask that if we're going to be more aggressive in that private works sphere, that we have a look at what we did with the previous board membership impact. The board was certainly aware of any confidential tenders we were doing and where our risk and liability was, so we could...
Certainly I can give councillors an update on what tenders we put in, what sort of work, so you're aware of that. And obviously that's good knowledge to have, and we'll update you on the progress of those tenders as we get them. Councillor.
The swimming pool reserves 165,000. I just really worry about reserves. I mean, we've got 312 there, we're just taking out 165. That means this time next year, if we do it again, we'll be at nothing.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the 165 in the swimming pool reserve is the resolution of council to be able to prop up when acting Director of Infrastructure brought forward a report on the pools earlier 2 months ago. And that is the resolution. That's what we're seeing reflected in these figures. So we had already started to identify budget areas and problem areas that we would need to address, but we didn't understand to the extent.
And how much is swipe cards cost?
I think it's
60, I think it's.
Through you, Chair, the operational 105,000 operational of the pools. We're maintaining them through the season. The additional 60,000 was for capital, which is for swipe cards across all the pools, as well as the automated movement counters, as we adopted in that last report.
And can I just say
Why
that's
swipe cards we need to sell, isn't it?
Can I just say that's a good example of where we've increased the level of service. The swap cards were only available at a limited area, and it's been great for the community that we've been able to offer that. But they're the sorts of things that's happened. We've brought the level of service consistently up. So for different towns that haven't had particular services have now got new services. They're consistent with what's in other towns, but it's new to those towns, and we've got that across the board.
Hence the reason we should charge more for the swipe cards.
That's right.
Yes.
Next year.
Hence we need to stop.
So, we've got the recommendations there. Moved and seconded. Put them all in favour. Carried. Request for financial assistance, men's shed, Talbingo.
Yeah, I'm happy to move that.
Yeah. Seconder, Councillor Cross. This just says that goes back to the panel to review.
Mr Mayor, again, I think you need to be careful that we're not spending money out of various different buckets of funding when we have to be careful about what we're spending.
Yes, and
something that
I'm
we
sure.
just keep going back to spending money, and then we say, well, we need to be careful, and we go to the next one, we spend money, and we go to the next one. I know this bucket of funding has been set aside and so on, but these men are wonderful people, and they do a fabulous job, and they're very devoted to what they're doing. That's a debt to us that belongs to us, and they could pay it off. That money could stay there for community groups that were really in need of things. I mean, I'm just very concerned that we keep saying, let's just give the money here and there and everywhere, and this is just yet another example.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, I'm sure the panel will take that into account. I'll put the motion all in favour. Councillor Hammond. Please note that Councillor Wright was absent for that vote.
And I voted against it.
Voted against or for?
Voted against? Against. Councillor Isselman voted against. Draft policies for public exhibition, 9 point.
Just hold on, I'll get this. Sorry.
What a lot of work.
Yes.
Wow.
Councillor Wright, yeah, thanks. All right, sorry.
And then all those submissions are going to come in.
Draft policies. Councillor Larder, Councillor Cross. Everything all good? All put the motion, all in favour?
Excellent.
Carried. Thanks to everybody involved with that.
Very much.
Unanimous.
That's fair, isn't it?
Annual report. Four recommendations. Councillor Cross, Councillor Isselman. Put the
Sorry.
Councillor Cross and Isselman. All in favour? Carried.
I'd just like to add that it looks fantastic. It's a brilliant job. Really impressive.
10.3, aerodrome infrastructure improvement works. Councillor Larder, you moving that?
Happy to move that.
Seconder? Councillor Pritchard? Councillor Larder?
Speaks for itself.
Speaks for itself.
Mr Mayor, are we spending more money on this one as well?
This is money we've got in reserve.
You sure?
Airport reserve.
Yeah, it was 172,000.
Oh, we could have had some for other things.
Thereabout.
It's there for a specific
It's there for the...
From somewhere, I presume.
Can't just fly away everywhere. Put the motion, all in favour? Councillor Cross? Carried unanimously. Management reports, restart New South Wales Safe and Secure Water Program projects, CANCOVA feasibility and scoping study. 4 recommendations there. Once again coming from the reserve, from Councillor Smith and Councillor Wright.
Councillors, can I just comment here? This is one of the successes of being part of the Canberra JO. So, from the Canberra JO, there was a full water and sewerage infrastructure program that was put together for the whole of the region. And the officials of Canberra JO went and lobbied with one set package through to the Minister in this area. And we've been a beneficiary of that in some work that we need to do at CANCOVA. So it's a good news story regarding the Canberra JO.
Put the motion, all in favour? That's unanimous. Draft tree management policy, feedback from public exhibition. 4 recommendations there. Councillor Smith, Councillor Isselman.
Now for submission, isn't it?
This is back in.
This is back in with the submissions.
Yeah.
We're writing to them.
Yeah.
All in favour? Councillor Isselman?
Yes, thank you.
Carried.
Can I just ask if there's an opportunity for succession planning in that?
For the trees or for?
For the trees, not for us.
Not the head wood.
You plant little ones?
Yeah, is there a succession plan?
I would imagine so.
Good.
Draft roadside vegetation management policy, feedback from public exhibition again. Move all 5. Move all 5. Councillor Lana, Councillor Ham.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Could someone tell me what the 2 submissions, in summary, what it was about?
They're on the attachment, are they? Yes.
Share attachments. Monthly attachments.
Through you.
Yes.
One of the submissions was in regard to the use of herbicides and suggesting that we try and minimise that. The other was in regard to the environmental, making sure it's protected, which is what
the whole
all about.
Yeah, the whole roundup. That's right. Trying to get the whole roundup discussion, things like that, which is probably something we'll have to revisit in half.
In the future.
May I just make a comment, please?
Certainly, Councillor Pritchard.
Over the years, there's been an increase in numbers of wildlings, pine seedlings, and the roadside vegetation. Presumably the seeds that fall off the backs of trucks, but they're getting quite substantial in certain areas, and I think we need to have a long-term policy to have them removed, and whether we can get the forestry people to cough up the help, I don't know, but it's something we need to address, otherwise we'll lose our native vegetation. It might take 100 or 2 years, but anyway.
I think likewise the prunus as well.
And the privet, yeah.
Because they've sort of given our horticultural industry those sort of trees on the side of the road need a bit of attention.
I don't think they fall off trucks.
They don't fall off trucks, but
They come from the seeds from the
planted by
birds.
birds. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried unanimously. Draft banner policy, feedback from public exhibition. Again. Councillor Hand, Councillor Cross. Nothing. Put it all in favour? Carried. Unanimous. We've done 10.8.
Now we go back over it.
Yeah, but it's
I don't want to go over it again. You're revisiting it.
Pleasantly surprised, Councillor Pritchard.
Minutes of the committee meeting. Aboriginal Liaison Committee. Just on the report there, number 2, I think local MPs is where you get flags from.
Yeah, good afternoon. And the ivy affected trees near the Tumbarumba Bowling Club.
Sorry?
Oh, and number 1, the ivy affected trees near the Tumbarumba Bowling Club. Probably more operational.
Yes, yeah. Through Mr. Mayor. So these is just things we can achieve operationally.
Yeah.
The flags particularly would be the life of a flag is 5 to 10 years. So as necessary, we'll be able to provide them.
When I was researching funding for the Jack Ryan project, there was funding available, grants available for flags. So that may be something that we could investigate again.
So just to clarify through the chair, we aren't talking about the Aboriginal flag or the Australia Day flag. We're talking about specific flags for.
Oh, no, okay.
So it's not a.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so
sorry.
it's a banner, if you like, or
Oh,
whatever you want to
okay.
call it. It's
Sorry.
not the official flag. Yeah.
Misunderstood.
So just clarify.
Okay, I'll put those recommendations on favour. It's carried, thank you. Butler Development League, 2 recommendations there. Councillor Smith. Councillor Risselman. Put the recommendations on favour. Carried. Festival of Falling Leaf.
Happy to move that.
Councillor Lana. Councillor Cross.
Mr Mayor, my apologies, I've missed me pointing out something about that later development meetings.
Would you like to make a statement?
No. Just clarification of the parking that they're talking about here in relation to the Australia Street. So they're talking about the community bus, the school bus that comes in is double parking on Pioneer Street because there's so much, and there's an actual bus parking area on Memorial Drive. So the idea of it, it's the school bus. It's got nothing to do with schools. It's the school bus goes to Tuma and back. So where it says like the school principals were addressed about it, it's got nothing to do with the 2 schools. It was to do with
The bus
Tuma
company.
and the bus company.
That's operational for the police, is it?
It's, through Mr Mayor, road safety officer is having discussions with the school bus lanes.
Okay. If we go for the Festival of the Falling Leaf.
Moving to second.
Yes.
I was just going to ask, I noticed in the minutes that the theme of the event for 2020 is fastest water boat. I'm just wondering whether it might be an idea if the Mayor extends an invitation for Mr Warby to be the patron or special guest for the Falling Leaf Festival that year, and we hold a council dinner ticketed event or something. We investigate.
Do we have a local councillor? Or is that fully run by the committee? Andriana? So we can just, the Mayor can speak to Andriana about raising that at the next meeting?
Yeah. Long as someone.
Dead leaf?
Yes. All in favour?
We've got the action tree.
Carried. Glenroy, Heritage Reserve. Councillor Hands, moving that. Followed by Councillor Lara. Councillor Hands.
I attended this for the first time. I've never been to one of these meetings before, and I just want to congratulate the committee. They're keen, they're can-do people, they're just getting on with it, and they're making this divine little button hut. It's just so stunning, and I recommend people will give it a month or 2 and it'll be finished, and go and visit. Tremendous.
Still got the kidney there.
Oh yes, and the kidney.
All in favour? Carried unanimously. Copying our progress and rate plans. 5 recommendations there.
Can I just ask a question? 3 and 4 don't seem to. They say they don't want to not endorse the recommendation in the minutes, but then they want to get in contact with the energy group.
Sorry.
Well, we're not endorsing the recommendation of the minutes. We're not endorsing what they.
They want us to do.
Through you, Mr
Yeah.
Mayor. Essentially, the Tumbarumba Progress Association want us to run an event for them by doing all of these things with the academic community energy group.
So we're just.
The staff's recommendation is to not endorse that,
Yeah.
and to instead make the information available to the Progress Association to organise that themselves.
Yeah.
And also, if they require funding to get that off the ground, then refer them to the next round of the community strength.
That makes sense. That's good. Right.
Perfect. Yeah, Councillor Cross. All in favour? You're ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's unanimous. Tumbarfest, 2 recommendations there.
Sorry, can we just go back one? Who was the seconder?
Bingo.
Hotel Bingo. Second.
I should mention that I wasn't at that meeting that we've got the minutes for. We did ask at the last meeting that they give us the minutes much earlier so that the November meeting, the November minutes can come into the business papers. So the recommendations don't have to wait 2 or 3 months for us to pass them. But we'll wait and see.
Okay. Tumbarfest. Councillor Hand and Councillor Wright.
It's all going on schedule, going well. Does anyone know that Kate Sobrano is going to be there as the lead singer? And you can buy tickets now.
Did you get a copy? Wolf Brothers.
And the Wolf Brothers, yes.
All right, put the recommendations on favour. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the ordinary business paper. The Local Government Act provides the council may close to the public that part of the meeting that deals with matters of a confidential nature. Section 10.2 lists such matters. On the grounds on which a meeting is closed to the public must be specified in the decision to close the meeting and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. The recommendation here is the council move into confidential to consider matters regarding the Southern Plains acquisition offer. Have a mover for that? Councillor Smith and Councillor Cross, all in favour? Thank you. And thank you for sitting through that. Okay, there we go. Thank you. I'll ask the General Manager to report on confidential.
In relation to item 12.1, Southern Plains Acquisition Officer, Council resolves the Council agree to vote in favour of the special resolution to update Southern Plains Constitution required to permit non-council shareholders of the company. And the Council agreed to the sale of 2 Southern Plains A-Class ordinary shares 11 and 55 and 1 preference share 1J at the AGL offer price of $785,714 in line with the attached sale of shares agreement, and the Council delegate to the General Manager to execute any relevant documentation necessary.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. That concludes the Council meeting. Thank you very much.